much for joining us. And look, it has been a busy week, so there is frankly no time for us to talk about the US signing a deal with the Taliban, or Joe Biden winning in South Carolina, or even the end of billionaire Tom Steyer's presidential run, despite the fact the closing days of his campaign got weird.
This is businessman Tom Steyer with Juvenile up on stage dancing to back that ass up.
I have a few questions there. One, the fuck? Two, you spent $250 million on your campaign. Was it worth it? And three, that song is called Back That Ass Up. Why are you not backing your ass up? No one told you to lurch forward and then do a weird little lasso that ass up. Juvenile is standing right next to you, and he's very clear about what he wants here. Payment in full for this inexplicable campaign appearance, and also for you to back your fucking ass up. No wonder your campaign failed. But look, tonight, we're actually going to do something different. And let's dive straight in with our main story tonight, which concerns the subject that has dominated the news all week.
Global hot zones, the coronavirus spreading.
Fears grow of a global pandemic.
A huge spike in cases in Italy.
Hundreds of cases in South Korea. New cases reported in Europe.
The CDC warned Americans to be prepared here at home, that it's not a matter of if, but when.
Yes, the coronavirus. On Tuesday, the CDC said that it's spreading here is not a question of if, but when, which is just not a comforting thing to hear about the spread of something deadly. It's only comforting if you're talking about whether Saoirse Ronan will win an Oscar or whether Henry Kissinger will ever die. Don't worry, it's not a question of if, but when. And the CDC were not wrong. There are now several dozen confirmed cases here in the United States, with the first death coming just yesterday. Meanwhile, the stock market has taken its biggest one-week dive since 2008, and many Americans have questions about how to stay safe.
Joy Johnson emailed us asking, can I get coronavirus from a package being delivered from China? That's a great question.
Talk about these masks. Do we get them or don't we?
Some people are wondering if you can protect yourself from the virus by gargling with bleach. What? Or taking steroids.
Can you get the coronavirus by eating Chinese food?
No, you can't. Of course you can't get the coronavirus from eating Chinese food. In fact, if you're eating at a Panda Express, you can't even get Chinese food by eating Chinese food. Although, I will say this, you are unlikely to get the coronavirus if you regularly gargle bleach, because you know what they say, being dead is already the best medicine. Look, it might be helpful to get the very basics down here straight away. What we're talking about is a sickness called COVID-19. Caused by a new strain of coronavirus. Symptoms include fever, cough, and shortness of breath, and preliminary estimates are that it has around a 2% mortality rate, with the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions most at risk. And I know some people don't seem to think that 2% is all that bad, as Chuck Todd told us in the weirdest possible way.
So last night, I surprised my teenager when I told him that only 2% of those that get this coronavirus die. He goes, oh, well, I thought it was much worse. And I understand if you just digest social media, you just digest the headlines, this feels more deadly than it is.
Okay, so first, on behalf of your teenager, Dad, get out of my room and stop telling me the news. But second, 2% of people is a lot when you're talking about those people dying. Think about it this way, 2% of people disappearing was literally the premise of The Leftovers. You know, the show whose pilots very much did not consist of Justin Theroux going, well, that was rough, but to be honest, could have been worse, and then the show ending. The fact is, a 2% mortality rate, if true, would be about 20 times higher than the seasonal flu. And while the good news is around 80% of those who get this virus have mild symptoms, the bad news is that means they are more likely to spread it without even realising. That is one of the things that makes this so dangerous, and why, even though its mortality rate is much lower than that of SARS or MERS, this virus has already killed 3 times as many people. In fact, one expert has predicted that 40 to 70% of the world's population will be infected within the next year, which is incredibly upsetting, because there's only one infectious disease that 2/3 of the world should be getting right now, and that's Adam Driver fever. Shatter my knees, you fuckable redwood. Snap off my toes, you big, unwashed buffalo. So, If the stock market is tanking and people are considering gargling bleach, we thought tonight might be a good time to talk about the coronavirus, how we got to this point, what's currently being done, and how this virus has exposed governmental vulnerabilities as it has spread around the world. And let's start with how all of this began. The first documented cases cropped up at the end of last year in Wuhan, China. And initially, the Chinese government wasn't just slow to respond. Officials tried to silence and punish medical professionals who tried to raise the alarm, which almost certainly helped the disease to spread. And when the Chinese leadership finally decided to act, it moved aggressively, putting nearly 50 million people on lockdown.
1 month after Wuhan sealed off its borders, its roads are empty and construction sites are abandoned. Residents had been permitted to leave their residential compounds once every 7 days, but this week, loudspeakers placed on street corners notified households of a change.
From now on, nobody can go out.
Holy shit! A talking box that tells you you can't leave your house feels pretty dystopian. To be honest, I much prefer our dystopia, where a talking box listens to all our conversations and then tells Jeff Bezos when I'll need underwear next. It's such a convenient way to give up everything. People on lockdown in China are in a very unpleasant situation, but they've been doing their best to try and amuse themselves, like this man who either improvised a cool mask or finally found a socially acceptable reason to indulge in a very specific fetish. Other citizens made makeshift hazmat suits out of inflatable Christmas tree and dinosaur costumes, while still others stuck indoors were reduced to creating their own entertainment, like playing snooker with chopsticks and cherry tomatoes. And look, I have to say, that is the most culinary resourcefulness that I've seen since Claire from Bon Appetit Test Kitchen made combos from scratch. I don't know why you do this to yourself, Claire. They sell them in stores. But despite the government effort at containment, over 2,700 people have now died in China. Among them, Dr. Li Wenliang, an early whistleblower silenced by officials who has since become a symbol for citizens' anger at their government's response. So that is how this all began. And the coronavirus has since spread to more than 60 other countries who've handled it with varying degrees of success. Vietnam, for instance, moved quickly and, among other things, produced this incredible public information video about how to limit its spread through proper hygiene. Yes, 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 yes! Vietnam made a song about washing your hands to prevent coronavirus infection, and it absolutely slaps. That's a genuine club banger right there. In fact, people like that song so much, it even became a TikTok dance challenge. The song's incredible. It makes all other songs about washing yourself look like trash. And I'm talking to you here, Ernie. Look, you've been on top of the pile for a long time, but you got complacent, didn't you? And while other artists were out there innovating, you kept singing the same old ducky song. You lost the hunger, son. You fell asleep at the wheel and music moved on without you. But look, not all countries have responded quite as well. Japan famously botched its handling of the cruise ship Diamond Princess by quarantining more than 3,500 passengers and crew on the ship itself, which had disastrous results.
More than 620 cases have been confirmed among the passengers and crew on the cruise ship, raising worries about how the virus was able to spread so rapidly among people who should have been isolated.
Oh, I'll tell you how it spread so rapidly. They were on a cruise ship. Under the best of circumstances, a cruise ship is a floating Petri dish. You might as well have held them in a Chuck E. Cheese ball pit. The spread was so bad that 7 passengers have since died, and the WHO's list of coronavirus cases by country actually had a separate line just for the Diamond Princess, which is terrifying, although again, in terms of cruises, still not the worst. If your options are the Diamond Princess or the actual Carnival cruise, where the toilets were so full of shit they were falling off the walls, I'm booking the SS Coronavirus 10 times out of 10. 10 out of 10. And in some countries, the response was handled so badly, you could watch the virus spread live on television. In Iran, a government spokesperson attempted to reassure people that the virus was under control, while the deputy health minister standing next to him started mopping away fever sweat like an Alabama preacher. That guy was later confirmed to have the coronavirus, although not before going on TV again to explain away his symptoms while coughing all over the fucking studio. And if that wasn't bad enough, which it is, it turns out the Iranian people now trust their government so little, they think he was staging the whole thing.
They say they're lying that they have corona. They want to. This is a propaganda.
They think he's not got it.
No. They say that he's lying, and in 3 days he's going to come out to say that, oh, you see, I'm recovered. It's not serious. Don't worry. The level of mistrust towards the Iranian politicians is so deep that they wouldn't believe anything that comes out of their mouth.
Right. Iranians won't believe anything that comes out of their politicians' mouths, even if that thing is the actual coronavirus. And that is a huge problem, because it is going to be hard for any government to give effective advice if people don't believe in them. You know, trust in institutions is critical when trying to contain a possible pandemic. And unfortunately, that brings us to the United States response to this virus, and specifically to this guy. Because the White House's messaging has been all over the place this week. In fact, on Tuesday, the very same day that the CDC said that the spread of coronavirus in the United States was not a question of if but when, one of Trump's top advisors was on TV saying this.
We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight.
Well, which is it? Because airtight versus close to airtight is a pretty crucial distinction. It's the difference between having a working submarine and a cool metal tube to die in. And the dissonance there speaks to a real problem, because in a global health emergency, you want to hear from the many trained experts who we're lucky enough to have working in our nation's public health agencies. You do not want to hear from politicians. And yet, on Wednesday, the president had a surprise announcement.
President Trump, alongside his top health advisors, sought to calm a nervous nation, naming a new point person to lead the administration's response.
I'm going to be putting our Vice President, Mike Pence, in charge. He's got a certain talent for this.
Does he? Does he, though? Because I was under the impression the only things Pence had a certain talent for were avoiding off-leash women, sucking up to people who represent the antithesis of everything he claims to believe in, and miserably failing at pulling off a haircut known as the Judi Dench. But putting aside Pence's, to put it mildly, extremely mixed record as governor of Indiana on managing public health issues, even the announcement that he would be leading the task force was a debacle, because Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, was already supposed to be chairing that task force, and Trump didn't seem interested in clarifying their roles, or indeed really being there at all.
Wish him good luck. And who?
Secretary Azar, given the Pence move,
the Vice President.
You do.
I think, if I could just clarify, I think you're not getting the point here of this. I'm still chairman of the task force.
You don't feel like you're being replaced.
Not in the least. When this was mentioned to me, I said I was delighted that I get to have the vice president helping in this way. Delighted. Absolutely.
Yeah, he just left. This was a press conference meant to calm the nation, and with the most basic question of who would be running things seemingly up in the air, he just fucked right off. And look, I know we're used to only seeing businessman Trump, but it is nice to occasionally get a glimpse of the absentee father in him too. And look, it is more than just a lack of leadership. It is also concerning that Trump's main focus when discussing this virus seems to be downplaying any potentially bad news. He started this week tweeting, "The coronavirus is very much under control." But there was no way to be sure of that, as he frankly should have known. Many of the test kits the CDC initially developed to detect the virus apparently didn't work as expected, meaning that as recently as Wednesday, the CDC and only 6 state labs were testing for the virus. Thankfully, that has since been fixed, and we're presumably going to find more cases now. But Trump seemed reluctant to admit that that will happen. In fact, you can watch that dynamic in real time as officials at the press conference say one thing and he tries to massage it into something else.
We can expect to see more cases in the United States.
We do expect more cases.
When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done.
Yeah, but it won't be close to zero, will it? Your experts just said cases will go up, and you said they will go down. You can't just ignore real numbers and make up ones that you like better. This is the problem with a president whose entire life has been a series of low-stakes lies. A man who has lied about, among other things, his net worth, his apprentice ratings, the number of floors in Trump Tower, the size of Electoral College victory, the attendance at his rallies, whether it rained at his inaugural, and even whether or not he was invited on this very boring and low-rated show, which he wasn't. He wasn't. It was a lie. But there is a difference between lying about something that means literally nothing and lying about the spread of a deadly disease. And that is not the only time that Trump has peddled false hope. If you've seen him speak on this virus at all lately, you may have seen him repeatedly reassure everyone that there is a chance the end of the outbreak is just around the corner.
There's a theory that in April, when it gets warm, historically, that has been able to kill the virus. You know, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. You know, in April, supposedly, it dies with the hotter weather, and that's a beautiful date to look forward to.
OK, so first, never call calendar dates beautiful. I don't know how he did it, but I'm pretty sure Trump just sexually harassed the month of April. But the second, again, the truth is much more complicated there, because yes, some viruses do recede in warmer months. And yes, history's worst flu pandemic in 1918 did ebb away over the summer. But it is worth knowing that come the fall, the virus returned, was far more severe, and ended up killing nearly 200,000 Americans in October alone. This is a bad time to have a president who cannot speak clearly, because there's already enough bad information flying around, and the president's favourite channel has been a particular offender here. Fox anchors and guests have repeatedly amplified false claims, from the idea that the virus was created in a Chinese bioweapons lab to the baseless internet rumour that it came from Chinese people eating bat soup, which one commentator used as an excuse to say how he really feels.
Bat soup may be delicious to certain people, but unfortunately, bats are the world's greatest reservoir for viruses. What are we going to do about China? What are we going to do about a totalitarian dictatorship where it's okay to sell live virus-infected bats in open-air marketplaces and then have business travel and tourist travel between that country and the civilized world?
Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa! That escalated quickly. He really moves from the vaguely dog-whistly, what are we going to do about China, all the way to it's not part of the civilized world at lightning speed. Truly, that man is the Usain Bolt of racism, a comparison I'm certain he absolutely hates. But look, it gets worse, because some people are even clearly trying to profit off the present panic, like televangelist Jim Baker, who has a cure that he'd love to sell you.
Would you recommend, as a doctor, people to have silver in their house for a pandemic?
You never want to be without silver.
You're saying that silver solution would be effective.
Well, let's say it hasn't been tested on this strain of the coronavirus, but it's been tested on other strains of the coronavirus and has been able to eliminate it within 12 hours.
Yeah.
Totally eliminate it, kills it, and deactivates it.
OK. That is ridiculous. Silver does not kill coronavirus. Silver kills werewolves, which means first, you need to get your coronavirus bitten by a microscopic werewolf. And where am I going to find one of those in this economy? Well, that's right, from our online store. For just $49.99, we will send you John Oliver's premium werewolf solution. It contains millions of microscopic werewolves ready to spread their bestial curse to your coronavirus, and then you can use the silver solution, which is based on the exact same amount of science. The truth is, while clinical trials are underway, there is no treatment for the coronavirus at the moment, and a vaccine could take between a year and 18 months to develop. And at this point, you may be wondering, how scared should you be? And the answer is probably a bit. A bit. Look, I don't want to be alarmist here, but I also don't want to minimise what we could be facing. It's really about trying to strike a sensible balance. Basically, if you're drinking bleach to protect yourself right now, you should probably calm the fuck down. if you are, say, licking subway poles because you're certain nothing can hurt you, maybe don't do that. You want to stay somewhere between those extremes. Don't be complacent, and don't be a fucking idiot. And look, as a practical matter, until experts advise that this threat is over, we should all be following some basic advice. First, don't be racist. That's just good general advice for now and for later. Two, don't hoard masks. While I understand that you might want to do that, you are potentially taking away those masks from the people who really need them, healthcare providers and those who are sick. Three, check the CDC website for future updates because they could have additional guidance as this develops. And finally, and this is more important than it might sound, wash your hands regularly for at least 20 seconds. And I know that that last lesson is boring and easy to forget, but luckily, we now know that there is a way to ensure that it absolutely never leaves your head. Hit it. That's song fucks. That fucks so hard. And now this.
And now, Chris Matthews just cannot seem to nail his sign-off.
That's hardball for now. Thanks for being with us. Owen with Chris Hayes starts right now. That's hardball for now. Thanks for being with us. That's hardball now. Thanks for being with us. That's hardball for now. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for being with us. 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 All in with Chris Hayes starts right now. Thanks for being with us. And all in with Chris Hayes starts right now. 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 All in with Chris Hayes. That's hardball for now. Thanks for all in with Chris Hayes right now.
Moving on. Finally tonight, I want to talk to you about baseball. The only sport that involves reading made-up sign language while staring directly at someone's dick. That's what the sport is. With the new season just around the corner, a huge scandal has engulfed the sport. And I'm not referring to the Houston Astros cheating their way to a championship. I'm actually talking about something even more important.
He's one of the most recognizable mascots in sports, but he could soon be a free agent. Unless the team pays out millions of dollars to keep him, the Philly Phanatic could be a thing of the past.
Why do you feel like it's, the heart and soul of the team?
Because he embodies everything that is Philadelphia. He's real.
Now, I hate to break it to that guy because based on his face paint, mullet and colourful bandana, he's living his absolute best life. But the Philly Phanatic is not actually real. He's just a person in a costume, although, fun fact, the person inside it, Jessica Lange. And she has never missed a single game. But it is true. The Phillies are in a lawsuit over their own mascot, and the concern is that they could lose the rights to it. And if you've never heard of the Phanatic before, you're frankly in for a treat because he's absolutely incredible. Here he is, teaching his cousin Gritty how to do his signature belly dance. Here he is, dumping popcorn all over the Phillies TV broadcasters. Here he is, firing hot dogs from a cannon into the crowd. Here he is, dressed in a Kiss outfit, playing a guitar that's firing sparks. And here he is, completely blindsiding a minor league baseball mascot who is running the bases. Now, was that other mascot okay? Ask yourself this. Does it matter? Last year, the Phanatic even released a 4-hour-long Yule log video for Christmas, much of which is him just sitting in a rocking chair, quietly reading a book, roasting marshmallows in the fireplace, and at one point getting tangled in Christmas lights. And look, no respect to Martin Scorsese, but that is clearly the best 4-hour film of 2019. It's not even close. The point is, the Phanatic is an absolute master of the mascotical arts. And this lawsuit is genuinely complicated, but in short, it revolves around whether the company who helped design the Phanatic has the right to reclaim the copyright after what's been 35 years. The filings in this case, though, are spectacular. Among other things, the two parties bicker about whether the Phanatic is a costume or, as the company claimed in its original submission to the US Copyright Office, an artistic sculpture. And at one point, the Phillies argue that without someone in the costume, the Phanatic would have appeared formless. And to illustrate that, they provided this actual photo of an empty costume lying on the floor, which would undoubtedly be the most horrifying way for this guy to find out that the Phanatic is not real. Never show him that photo. He cannot handle it. Well, last Sunday, the disputes took yet another turn when, in a move that some think was prompted by the lawsuit, the Phillies suddenly introduced a brand new Phanatic design.
Many changes are subtle, like a shorter snout, a lighter blue color around the eyes, a pair of red shoes and blue socks, and scales under the arms. The longer blue tail was a bit more obvious.
Now, I know that it might not look to you like there is much of a difference between the new and the old Phanatic, but believe me, there very much is. And forget the fact that he now has scales for no reason, or the bullshit star shapes around his eyes. They changed the Phanatic's honker. Look at it. It's a cylinder now, which is ridiculous. The Phanatic's honker is supposed to be conical. He's supposed to have a conical honker, and now they've made him look stupid. You respect the conical honker. Hashtag respect the conical honker. The point is, the old Phanatic was perfect just the way he was. Look at him. He's a Sesame Place 10, but now he's a Times Square 6 at best. And I'm not the only one who hates this new design. Fans in Philadelphia even started the hashtag #NotMyPhanatic, which they've used to voice their justified anger. But perhaps the most important part of this story is that if the Phillies lose this case, there is a question over whether the Phanatic could theoretically become a free agent, meaning he could move to a different team or a different brand entirely. And that, my friends, is where we come in. Because, look, we're no stranger to the mascot game here, but we've never had an official show mascot before. And to be honest, after learning about this, I'm feeling like I kind of want one now. So if the Phanatic does indeed hit the open market, then we are putting ourselves at the front of that line. So Phanatic, if you are tired of being treated terribly, we have an offer that we'd like you to consider.
You were the face of Philadelphia sports for over 40 years.
The Philly Phanatic.
Philly Phanatic.
But all good things must come to an end. Sometimes a hero needs a new challenge, a new home, a home that doesn't want to change you into whatever the fuck this is. A home that respects the conical honker. Sure, they tried to knock you down in the past, but champions don't stay down. They get back up, dust off their fur, and show the world what they're made of. Phanatic, it's time to link up with the most stacked mascot lineup in history. We've got an empty pedestal just waiting for you. It's time to fulfill your destiny. Mr. Phanatic, you're about to be a free agent, and if there's gonna be a bidding war, we're willing to go nuclear. Name your price, you magnificent beast. Join a new team and become the official mascot of Last Week Tonight. New York is waiting for you.
That's right, Phanatic. Your new team is ready and waiting for you right here. Frankly, we've spent money on things way stupider than this. That's our show. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week. Good night.